What if the most powerful person in any room is not the loudest one, not the richest one, not the one with the most followers or the most achievements, but the one who cannot be disturbed? What if the greatest strength a human being can possess has nothing to do with how much they can lift, how much they can earn, or how much they can control, but everything to do with how deeply they can remain still when everything around them is falling apart? What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, inside you, beneath all the noise, beneath all the anxiety and the overthinking and the exhaustion of trying to keep everything together, there is a place that has never once been shaken, a silence that has always been there, waiting for you to find it? What if the peace you have been desperately searching for in other people, in achievements, in validation, what if it was never out there at all? What if it was always, only ever, inside you? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, everything you think you know about mental strength, about inner peace, about what it truly means to be unbothered, is about to completely change. What if everything that has ever disturbed you, everything that has ever stolen your sleep, crushed your confidence, made you question your worth, what if none of it ever actually had power over you? What if the only thing that was ever truly happening was that you had not yet learned to be still? What if peace was never something you needed to search for outside yourself, but something you needed to uncover within yourself, layer by layer, breath by breath, moment by moment? There is a mountain. It has been standing for thousands of years. Storms have arrived and storms have gone. Thunder has cracked across its surface. Lightning has struck it again and again. Armies of clouds have gathered around it, tried to swallow it whole. But the mountain never moved. The mountain never panicked. The mountain never whispered to itself, "I hope this storm passes quickly. I cannot take much more." The mountain simply stood, rooted, present, unshakable. And the storms, every single one of them, eventually passed. Now I want you to ask yourself one of the most important questions you may ever sit with in your entire life. Why are you not the mountain? You see, the human mind in its untrained state is like a lake during a storm. Every rock that lands in it creates ripples. Every harsh word, every disappointment, every unexpected change, every piece of bad news, they all land like stones, and the entire surface of the lake becomes disturbed. And as long as the surface is disturbed, you cannot see through to the bottom. You cannot see clearly. You cannot think clearly. You cannot live clearly. And so you move through life making decisions from a place of disturbance rather than a place of depth. This is the tragedy of the untrained mind. But here is what very few people understand. The disturbance is not caused by the stones. The disturbance is caused by the shallowness of the water. A stone thrown into a shallow lake creates enormous ripples that shake the entire surface. But throw that same stone into the deepest part of the ocean and something remarkable happens. The ocean barely notices. There is a small movement at the surface, yes, but deep below in the vast and silent depths, there is absolute peace. The ocean does not collapse. The ocean does not scream. The ocean simply absorbs and returns to itself. This is what it means to train yourself to be unbothered. It does not mean you become cold. It does not mean you become emotionally absent or disconnected from the world around you. It does not mean you pretend that painful things are not painful or that difficult situations are not difficult. It means you become so deep, so vast inside yourself that nothing from the outside world can reach all the way down to your foundation and shake it. Your foundation becomes untouchable. Not because you built walls around it, but because you built depth within it. Now let me ask you something. How many hours a day do you spend training your body? Perhaps you go to the gymnasium, perhaps you run, perhaps you lift heavy things and push yourself physically because you understand that the body must be trained if it is going to be strong and healthy and capable. You would not expect to walk into a gymnasium for the first time and immediately lift the heaviest weight on the rack. You understand that physical strength requires consistent effort over time. You understand that the muscle must be stressed, broken down, and rebuilt stronger than before. You understand this process completely when it comes to the body. So why have you never applied this same understanding to the mind? The mind is a muscle, and like any muscle, it can be trained, or it can be left to weaken. An untrained mind is one that reacts before it thinks. It is one that feels an emotion and immediately becomes that emotion. Someone says something unkind, and the untrained mind is immediately consumed, burning with anger, drowning in sadness, suffocating under anxiety. The untrained mind has no space between what happens and how it responds. It is living in pure reaction. And a life lived in pure reaction is not a life being lived. It is a life being controlled. But the trained mind, the mind that has been worked on, stretched, challenged, observed, this mind creates something extraordinary. It creates a gap, a sacred space between stimulus and response. And in that gap, in that tiny but infinitely powerful space, lives your freedom. Because in that space, you get to choose, not react, choose. And that single ability, the ability to choose your response rather than simply react, is what separates the person who is constantly disturbed by life from the person who moves through life with grace, strength, and unshakable inner peace. Now I want to talk to you about something that most people spend their entire lives running away from: pain, discomfort, difficulty. The natural human instinct, and I say natural because it is deeply wired into us, is to move away from anything that causes pain. We avoid the conversation that makes us uncomfortable. We avoid the situation that causes us anxiety. We take the easier path. We numb ourselves with entertainment, with distraction, with noise, anything to keep us from having to sit with what is difficult. And there is nothing wrong with you for having this instinct. It is human. It is ancient. It kept our ancestors alive. But here is the problem. We are no longer running from lions. We are running from our own emotions. And the more you run from your own emotions, the more powerful they become. Whatever you resist persists. The anxiety you refuse to face grows larger in the dark. The grief you push down does not disappear, it waits. The anger you suppress does not dissolve, it hardens inside you like stone, and one day it breaks through in ways you never intended and never wanted. The thing you run from becomes the thing that owns you. The warrior does not run from the difficult opponent. The warrior trains. The warrior prepares. The warrior walks toward the difficulty with eyes fully open and says, I will learn everything this challenge has to teach me, because every difficulty that arrives at your door is not actually your enemy. It is your teacher. It is presenting itself to you because there is something inside you that needs to be strengthened, something that needs to be seen, something that needs to be released. The question is never, why is this happening to me? The question is always, what is this happening to teach me? Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the curriculum. And the person who understands this, who can sit with their discomfort, breathe through it, observe it without being destroyed by it, this person grows in ways that the comfortable person never will. Diamonds are not formed in comfortable conditions. They are formed under enormous pressure over enormous time. You were never going to become who you are meant to be by avoiding everything that was hard. Let me speak to you now about the single greatest gift you can give yourself, and it costs nothing. No money, no special equipment, no extraordinary circumstances. The gift is silence. Not the silence of an empty room, the silence of an empty mind, or more precisely, the practice of creating enough stillness within yourself that you can begin to hear what is actually happening inside you. Because most people have never truly listened to themselves. They have spent their entire lives listening to other people's opinions, other people's expectations, other people's definitions of success and failure and worth. They have never sat in complete silence and asked, Who am I actually? What do I actually want? What is actually true for me beneath all the noise? When you sit in silence, really sit in it, without reaching for your phone, without turning on music, without creating any distraction, something uncomfortable happens first. The thoughts come rushing in. The worries, the regrets, the fears, the to-do lists, the memories you would rather not revisit, and the untrained person immediately reaches for the exit. This is too much. I cannot sit with this. Give me something to distract me. But the trained person does something different. The trained person sits with it. The trained person breathes and watches and observes all of these thoughts arising without immediately grabbing onto them, without immediately becoming them. You are not your thoughts. This is perhaps the most liberating truth you will ever encounter. You are the awareness that observes your thoughts. And when you truly understand this, when you genuinely experience this rather than just intellectually knowing it, something shifts inside you permanently. Because if you are the observer of your thoughts, then your thoughts do not control you. You can watch a worried thought arise and say, I see you, I acknowledge you, but I am not going to let you drive. You can watch an angry thought appear, and instead of being consumed by it, you can simply note it and let it pass. Like clouds moving through the sky, they appear, they exist for a moment, and they pass, they always pass. Now let us speak about something that cuts very deeply in the world we live in today, the world of opinions, the world where everyone has a voice and everyone is using that voice to evaluate, to judge, to criticize, to compare. Social media has created an environment where the validation of strangers has become the currency people trade their peace for, where the number of likes on an image determines how a person feels about their own worth, where one negative comment from someone you have never met can ruin your entire day, sometimes your entire week. This is the age of maximum external disturbance, and the people who do not train themselves to be unbothered are going to be absolutely consumed by it. Here is what you must understand about the opinions of others. When a person criticizes you, truly examine where that criticism is coming from. If it is valid, if there is genuine truth in it, then receive it with gratitude because it is helping you grow. But if it comes from a place of jealousy, of insecurity, of that person's own unresolved pain, then that criticism has absolutely nothing to do with you. It is a mirror of what is happening inside them. And you choosing to let it disturb you is like standing in a storm of someone else's making and getting soaked because you refuse to step inside. You cannot control what people say. You cannot control what people think. You cannot control the storms that arrive in your life, but you can, with practice, with consistent daily effort, control how deeply they penetrate. You can build such an unshakable inner foundation that the storms of life hit you, and instead of shattering you, they simply remind you of how solid you have become. And this brings me to perhaps the most important thing I will say today. The training is daily. There is no destination you arrive at called, I am now completely unbothered. There is no finish line. There is only the practice. Every morning you wake up is an opportunity to choose. Am I going to move through this day on autopilot, reacting to everything, giving my power away to every circumstance and every person who crosses my path? Or am I going to move through this day with intention, with awareness, with the conscious decision to remain rooted in my own center, regardless of what the world brings? The practice is in the small moments. Someone cuts you off in traffic. This is the practice. Someone ignores your message. This is the practice. Plans change suddenly. This is the practice. You receive criticism. This is the practice. You do not receive the recognition you felt you deserved. This is the practice. Every moment of potential disturbance is a moment of potential training. And the person who sees it this way, who genuinely begins to see every challenge as a training ground rather than a threat, This person transforms the entire experience of being alive. Because life does not become easier. I will not lie to you and tell you that if you train your mind, the difficulties will stop coming. They will not. The storms will continue to arrive, people will continue to disappoint, circumstances will continue to shift in unexpected directions. Loss will come, failure will come, uncertainty will come. These are not bugs in the system of life. They are features. They are guaranteed. The difference is not in what comes. The difference is in who you have become in relation to what comes. When you have trained yourself to be truly unbothered, not fake unbothered, not suppressed emotions dressed up as peace, but genuinely grounded in your own stillness, you begin to experience something that very few people in this world ever get to experience. You begin to experience life from a place of freedom, real freedom. Not the freedom that comes from having everything under control, because nothing is ever fully under control, but the freedom that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you will be okay. Not because nothing will ever hurt you, but because you have developed the inner resources to meet whatever arrives and remain standing. You become like the mountain, present, rooted, unshakable, still, and you begin to realize that this is what you always were, beneath all the noise, beneath all the reactivity, beneath all the years of running from discomfort and chasing validation and letting external things determine your internal state. Beneath all of that, there was always a stillness waiting for you, a silence that never left, a depth that was always there. You just had to be willing to train yourself to reach it. So the question I leave you with is not a complicated one. It does not require years of study or extraordinary circumstances or the perfect conditions. It requires only one decision made freshly, consciously, every single day. The decision to go inward, the decision to train. The decision to stop giving your peace away to things that are not worthy of it. The decision to become the mountain. Because the storms are coming. They always come. The only question that matters is, when they arrive, what will they find standing in their way? Train yourself every day a little more still, a little more rooted, a little more unbothered, not because the world will become perfect, but because you will. Everything we have walked through today points toward one singular truth. Peace is not a luxury reserved for monks on mountaintops or for people who have somehow escaped the difficulties of ordinary life. Peace is a practice, it is a discipline, it is a choice that must be renewed every single morning and protected every single moment. You have within you right now, not tomorrow, not after the next achievement, not when circumstances finally improve, right now, in this very moment, the capacity to become completely unbothered by what the world throws at you. But that capacity will remain buried until you train it, until you choose day after day to go inward instead of outward for your sense of stability. The mountain does not become solid on the day the storm arrives. It was already solid long before. Begin today. Begin now. Start small. Start with one breath. Start with one moment of choosing observation over reaction, and then do it again tomorrow and the day after, because this is not a journey with an ending. It is a way of living. And when you commit to it fully, you will discover something so beautiful it may bring tears to your eyes. You were never actually broken. You were never actually weak. You were simply untrained, and now you know the way.